Today's episode is brought to you by FAMM. Have you heard about FAMM? I've been running FAMM, the Fertility Awareness Mastery Mentorship Program, for a couple of years now. It's a mentorship program specifically designed for women's health professionals looking to use the menstrual cycle as a diagnostic tool with their clients. Not only does FAMM prepare you to teach fertility awareness to your clients, but by combining the science with the practical application of charting, it allows you to support your clients by monitoring their fifth vital sign in a standardized way. Enrollment for FAMM only opens once per year. Head over to fertilityfriday.com/FAMMlive to join the waiting list and be the first to know when early bird registration opens for next year's class of 2024. That's fertilityfriday.com/FAMMlive. This is the Fertility Friday podcast, episode number 470. Welcome to the Fertility Friday podcast, your source for information about the fertility awareness method and all things fertility. I'm your host, Lisa Hendrickson-Jack. I'm the author of The Fifth Vital Sign and the Fertility Awareness Mastery Charting Workbook. I'm a certified fertility awareness educator and holistic reproductive health practitioner with over 20 years of experience teaching women to connect to their fifth vital sign through menstrual cycle charting, balancing hormone health, and optimizing the menstrual cycle without hormones. I have been consistently outspoken about hormonal birth control over the past 2 decades and its impact on fertility and overall health because you have the right to know how your body works and how artificial hormones disrupt that natural process. I teach women's health professionals how to utilize the menstrual cycle as a vital sign in their practices, and I host live coaching programs to help you achieve optimal fertility and health because it's important to have healthy menstrual cycles regardless of whether or not you want to have babies. I'm also a wife and mother of 2 beautiful boys and a brand new baby girl. This podcast is designed to empower you to take full control of your cycles, your fertility, and your overall health. And I'm so excited that you're here with me today. Today I'm sharing a brand new episode in my FAMM research series. I'm sharing an interesting study that I did highlight in the Fifth Vital Sign. So if you have a copy of the Fifth Vital Sign, it's in chapter 7, page 111. This is a particularly interesting study because I feel like it addresses the question of what would happen if men experience the same side effects on birth control that women experience every single day. And I feel like in many ways, this study puts that question to rest because it's essentially the same thing. So we're going to get into the study. We're going to talk about it a little bit. Some of you may have heard of the study before, but by the end of this episode, you'll all be quite familiar with it. And it'll be just an interesting piece of information to ponder. And it really makes us think about, well, at least it makes me think about the state of medicine, the whole concept of medical gaslighting, and how essentially women's issues tend not to be taken as seriously, or at least that's how it appears to me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. The title of the research study we're going to be getting into today is called Efficacy and Safety of an Injectable Combination Hormonal Contraceptive for Men. And I feel like that says it all. This was a study on an injectable contraceptive for men similar to the depot shot that we have for women. And this study examines efficacy, but it just had an interesting turn of events. This study came out in 2016, and I'll first start just by telling you a little bit about the study. All right, so their intention was to just determine if this contraceptive option could be viable for men, because obviously there's an unmet need in the market for male hormonal contraceptives. As I'm guessing all of you know, the only hormonal contraceptive options that are available on the market today are specifically for women. There's really no male contraceptive option available beyond condoms or sterilization or withdrawal. Those are essentially the options for men. And so, in this study, they're putting this out there to say, okay, that was even their the context of the study. The development of a safe and effective reversible method of male contraception is still an unmet need. So they're trying to determine all this. So what they did is they chose a pool of participants, healthy men between the ages of 18 to 45, and they checked all of these men to ensure that they met the, World Health Organization guidelines for what is considered to be normal sperm parameters. And interestingly, over the course of the study, what they did is they injected these men once every 8 weeks with a combination of synthetic progestins and testosterone. And so that was taking place over the course of the study. And then they measured their sperm parameters to see if this injection was successful at reducing the sperm parameters. And they also measured pregnancy rates and things like that. So if I give you just a general summary of what took place, and then we'll get into the juicy stuff in a minute. Basically, what they say is that 95.9, so 96% out of 96 out of 100 users, so 96%, their sperm was suppressed to a concentration of less than 1 million per milliliter within 24 weeks. So what that means is that it was successful for the vast majority of these men to get their sperm to a level of essentially infertility. So these men would not have been able to conceive naturally, theoretically, because the sperm was basically nil. And during the efficacy phase, up to 56 weeks, 4 pregnancies occurred out of the 266 male partners. So they said it was a pregnancy rate of 1.57 per 100 users, which puts it up pretty high. I mean, that's pretty close to the efficacy of the pill. Perfect use for sure. So, and I suppose because it's an injectable, this typical use would be kind of similar to that. So from that standpoint, and I really just want to stress this, the efficacy was there. And so technically, this trial was a success. They proved that they could use an injectable method for men, that it could suppress their sperm parameters to infertility levels, and that it had a really high efficacy. And since this is a trial, I mean, they could do some adjustments and different things to try to, bump up that efficacy even further. But the efficacy with their trial, there was only a failure rate of 1.57%. So overall, I would say that it was, in terms of efficacy, it was a success. They go on to say that the most common adverse reactions reported, and this is also important, were acne, pain at the injection site, increased libido, interestingly, and mood disorders. So what you have, in at least my understanding here of the study, is you have a situation that is very, very similar, parallel, I would say virtually identical to the experience of women who take hormonal contraceptives on a day-to-day basis. The contraceptives, hormonal contraceptive methods, whether we're talking, for the female side, whether we're talking about the pill, the patch, the shot, the ring, whatever it is that we're talking about, the hormonal IUD, the efficacy, the perfect use efficacy is quite high. So it does work. It does, suppress ovulation or prevent implantation, depending on, the primary mode of action of the contraceptive that you're looking at. The majority of the contraceptives suppress ovulation, but some of them don't fully suppress ovulation. But either way, regardless of the mode of action, the contraceptive options for women are highly effective. And again, going back to the adverse reactions, there are the most common adverse reactions for women who use hormonal contraceptives tend to be libido. So ironically, on the opposite end, low libido. So sexual side effects, as well as mood changes. So whether that's depression, anxiety, a variety of different mood changes, those are also very common side effects when women use hormonal contraceptives, as is acne for some. For some women, they may find that a reduction in acne, and others actually conversely find an increase in acne. So I would say that just on the surface, the side effect profile for the hormonal contraceptive in this study for men was very similar. So acne, injection, pain at the injection site, increased libido, so sexual changes, and mood disorders, including, depression and anxiety, things like that. So what makes this study interesting is that it was actually stopped midway. So an independent data and safety monitoring committee was established before the trial started. And in the middle of the study, the safety committee decided that the side effects were so severe that they needed to call off the study. So just let that sink in. So literally in the middle of the study, because they did have a certain number of participants that were experiencing mood disorder, depression, different, emotional side effects, they actually fully stopped the study midway. So if I read from the study, it says that essentially paraphrasing this part here, but this research committee, quote, determined that for safety reasons, recruitment should be stopped and enrolled participants should discontinue receiving injections and be transitioned to the recovery phase. Yeah. And what's so interesting about this, this could span quite a large conversation, in terms of if many of us, let's say, have concerns about hormonal contraceptives and their potential impact on mood or on libido or on nutrient deficiencies or a variety of other challenges that arise, a variety of other common adverse reactions to contraceptives. So if we have those kinds of concerns, does it make sense to be looking at creating an analogous version for men? Is that the best option? Given the concerns that we have. So we could certainly get into that. I feel like that's a fair point and a fair discussion piece. Like, should we really be looking at the goal of making a contraceptive option for men when we can see that there are harmful side effects for women? And we can see that when we shut down reproduction, it does have other side effects beyond simply reproduction. It can't be a surprise to anybody who's well-versed in the side effects of contraceptives. And, for longtime listeners of the podcast, it cannot be a surprise that men who were given a drug to essentially suppress their natural testosterone production, suppress their ability to produce sperm. So a very similar situation here from the mode of action of the pill. It can't be a surprise that it would also have other far-reaching effects. If we're going to suppress sperm production, it's going to suppress potentially their testosterone production. Even though they're getting, synthetic version of it, their natural production is going to change. And that is going to have some sort of effect emotionally as well as physically. We know this based on how the pill affects women. So certainly we could ask that question of, is it even something that we should be looking at? But at the end of the day, that's kind of a separate interesting topic to ponder. Whereas today, the question that I'm getting at with this episode is going back to, if men experience the same side effects as women, would people look at it differently, right? So from the overall general perspective, I feel like it's a fair question. But the key point that I just want to highlight is that there was never a committee that stopped anything with regards to hormonal contraceptive use for women. And to this day, 50%, the studies show that about 50%, half of women who start using the pill stop within the first year, half because of the side effects. There is a huge percentage of women who either completely stop using contraceptives or switch from contraceptive to contraceptive to contraceptive to contraceptive, looking for one that either has less side effects or no side effects. Because overall, a really significant percentage of women use hormonal birth control and have negative side effects. Where is their safety committee, right? Why doesn't that study get stopped? So you have this small study. You've got 266 men who are using this contraceptive method. They didn't even get to the end of the study before they stopped it because of the side effects. And ironically, the side effects these men experienced were about the same as the side effects women experience every day. So that's essentially what I'm getting at here, So I thought actually that it would be, I might take a moment to read a little excerpt from the fifth vital sign because it's relevant, because I did highlight that study. So again, this is chapter 7, the pill chapter, page 111. So I'm just going to read a little bit from here, if you will indulge me. Quick question for you. Have you heard about FAMM? I've been running FAMM, the Fertility Awareness Mastery Mentorship Program, for a couple of years now. It's a mentorship program specifically designed for women's health professionals who are looking to use the menstrual cycle as a diagnostic tool with their clients. Not only does FAMM prepare you to teach fertility awareness to your clients, but by combining the science with the practical application of charting, FAMM allows you to support your clients by monitoring their fifth vital sign in a standardized way. Enrollment for FAMM opens only once per year, so although enrollment is currently closed, you can still head over to fertilityfriday.com/FAMMlive to join the waiting list and be the first to know when early bird registration opens for next year's class of 2024. Again, that's fertilityfriday.com/FAMMlive. Now let's go ahead and jump back into today's episode. Okay. In December 2016, a study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism evaluated the efficacy and safety of an injectable contraceptive for men by studying a group of 320 male participants. The drug was extremely effective in reducing sperm count, thus demonstrating its efficacy as a contraceptive method. However, during the study, a number of participants developed mood changes, depression, pain at the injection site, and increased libido, among other side effects. According to the study, 20 men discontinued the study due to product-related side effects. Of these 20, 6 men discontinued only for changes in mood, and 6 men discontinued for the following single reasons: acne, pain or panic at first injection, palpitations, hypertension, and erectile dysfunction. 8 men discontinued for more than one side effect, including multiple reasons related to changes in mood. I go on. In addition, the study reported that, quote, there was one death by suicide in the efficacy phase. The participant received 3 injections and committed suicide 1 month after the last injection, unquote. But this death was, quote, assessed as not related to the study regimen, end quote. Obviously, this is serious. I mean, there were men who were found to be depressed. There was the suicide within the course of the study. Although when you read through the study, they didn't determine that it was related to the drug, although who knows. But this individual already had some challenges that he was dealing with. But here's the thing. These side effects, although varying in severity, right? I mean, depression can be obviously very serious. It can be life-threatening. But ironically, these are the same side effects, right, that women experience. So what's interesting, again, is that they did send in this team and they stopped the study midway. So just to wrap up my quote from the book here, as you read these side effects, I have a feeling that you're thinking what I'm thinking. This sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sexual dysfunction, depression, mood changes, and changes in libido. That sounds a lot like the way HCs affect women. Go figure. Messing with men's hormone levels has effects that extend beyond spermatogenesis. You don't say. That's obviously my typical kind of tongue-in-cheek type of way of highlighting things in a sarcastic manner. But at the end of the day, this study is so interesting for that reason. You basically have a contraceptive method that is actually highly effective at preventing pregnancy in very much the same way as hormonal contraceptives do for women. But the side effects, when men experience them, essentially the same side effects, it is not considered to be acceptable. So, of course, then the ultimate question is, well, why is it considered acceptable for women? If they're experiencing the same side effects as we're experiencing, where's our safety study? And why is it that this kind of uncontrolled experiment has been going on for 60 years? Now, of course, a lot of people will chime in and say, well, we know that the pill is a reversible method. That's what, is said in all the studies. It's a reversible contraceptive method, with minimal side effects, they always say, etc. But might I remind you that there was a study, I will have to search for it to include it in today's episode here, but there was a study and there's an estimated approximately 350 or so women per year that die from using the pill as directed. And in the study that I'm thinking of, the researcher essentially said, because it's about 350 women a year who die using the pill as directed, that it's essentially equal to a jumbo jet crashing every year in terms of women who use the pill as directed and die. And so the majority of women who use the pill, and most of us know women who've used the pill, most of us have used it because up to 80% of, women have used the pill, including myself. So we've used it. We know people have used it, and most of us are not experiencing any type of fatal consequence. But at the end of the day, there are fatal consequences and serious side effects similar to the side effects in this study. If there were some takeaways from this point, or, what does the study tell us? It tells us that they do have the technology right now to come out with a hormonal contraceptive option for men, but they choose not to because of the side effects, because they feel that the side effects are either too severe or just not acceptable for men. And that in and of itself is interesting because women are experiencing the same side effects to this day. So just think about that. I mean, there's often the question of, women take the brunt of the reproductive labor. We're the ones who are tasked with birth control. The burden falls on our shoulders. When I run my programs, whether it's my FAMM Live 10-week group coaching program or my FAMM practitioner program, the common theme when I'm sitting in a group of women who are in relationships with men and sexually active in their reproductive years is that we are the ones who are bearing the brunt of this burden. We are the ones who have to figure this out. And for many women, it's such a relief. Obviously, there's not one contraceptive option that's going to work for everybody, but many women gravitate to fertility awareness charting because it's non-hormonal, there's no side effects, although there is a learning curve and it takes a little bit of time to figure everything out. It's a huge relief for women who have experienced side effects on contraceptives, who've gone from contraceptive to contraceptive to contraceptive, looking for something without side effects, and really feeling, I've spoken to so many women who've gotten to the point where they feel, I don't know if desperate's the right word, I think more so just stuck, trapped, because they feel like this is the only option. There's nothing else out there. I don't feel good on it, but what else am I supposed to do? So I know that there are a lot of women who feel just an incredible sense of relief when they discover fertility awareness as an option, that it's effective, that you can learn how to do it, that it does have perfect use efficacy that is in line with the perfect use efficacy of hormonal contraceptives, and that it's actually possible to protect yourself from an unplanned pregnancy with this method just as effectively as you would use hormonal options without the side effects, right? And then there's plenty of other women who may not have had really devastating side effects on contraceptives, but are really excited to learn more about their cycles and to give their hormones a chance to normalize and to kind of see what's really going on there. And of course, there's other women who are planning to conceive in the future. And so this kind of aligns with organizing their cycle, figuring out how everything's going to look in preparation for pregnancy. So there's lots of different reasons, but just to highlight, there are a significant number of women who experience really detrimental side effects on the pill for whom this is just an incredible option for. So again, something to ponder. Imagine that. This study was done in 2016 and it was effective. It was effective in terms of its ability to successfully prevent pregnancy. And that was, so I'm recording this in 2023. So that's 7 years ago. And so where's the contraceptive? Where's the second trial? Why don't we have a drug yet? Right? So just keep that in mind. They have the ability to do it. They have the ability to suppress sperm production in men. They could roll out a drug at any point. What's the holdup? The holdup is the side effects. At least in this particular study, they felt that the side effects, the same ones that we experience, are so egregious for men that they couldn't continue. And so I think that's a huge reason why we haven't seen that rollout, because they can't come up with something that messes with men's hormones and suppresses testosterone, suppresses sperm production, that also doesn't have those, analogous side effects to what we experience on contraceptives. So I'm going to end this here. Like I said, I was excited to share this with you. I find the study to be really interesting. I think that it's such an interesting topic. I feel like it's a little aggravating, obviously, but I think that it is an important conversation piece. It is an important discussion to have. And I feel, again, for all the women who feel invalidated, who feel gaslighted, who feel like your symptoms aren't taken seriously, I feel like it is helpful to look at things like this and look at studies like this and contemplate them, because it's not in our heads. Our concerns and complaints do tend not to be taken as seriously as if they would come from. It doesn't mean all men's complaints and health concerns are taken completely seriously. Our medical system has a long way to go, but there is truth to that. There is truth to those feelings when you feel like, man, I don't feel like my doctor's taking me seriously when I'm telling him about my period pain or when I'm telling him about the side effects on the pill. I mean, he thinks that it's not even real, the effects that I've seen on my mood and how I feel more depressed or how I don't have a libido anymore. It's like they don't care or like they don't take it seriously. And I feel like this study's like showing you, well, if men experience the same side effects, we have that answer. It would be looked at differently. In fact, apparently they would send in the safety committee and shut it down to protect them. All right. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, whenever you're tuning into the show. If you know somebody who you think would enjoy hearing this, or if this is an interesting topic of conversation that you want to broach with your girlfriends or colleagues or whoever, the share link is fertilityfriday.com/470. And with that said, I will let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for listening. And that's a wrap. If you're loving the Fertility Friday podcast, then I know you'll love FAMM, our Fertility Awareness Mastery Mentorship Certification Program. It's a 9-month program designed to teach you how to use the menstrual cycle as a diagnostic tool in your women's health practice. The menstrual cycle is the missing piece you've been looking for to better support your clients to balance hormones, normalize their cycles, and optimize their fertility. When you join FAMM, I pull back the curtain and share advanced chart interpretation strategies and specialized client protocols that will completely transform your practice. Enrollment for FAMM is opening up again in a few months. Head over to fertilityfriday.com/FAMMlive to join the waiting list and be the first to know when early bird registration opens. That's fertilityfriday.com/FAMMlive.